Content warning. Discussion of suicide. In the following 2 clips, it's amazing to watch Graham Linehan and Artie Morty squirm as Helen deploys their own weaponizing suicide argument against them, in relation to how annoyed she was to have to hear about Artie's trans friend who died.
I mean, it is interesting how quick that you were to, I feel, sort of use suicide as a weapon, talking about your friend who'd killed himself. And saying, is this what you want? And I do think it's interesting. It might give us an interesting perspective into the other side, because of this personal involvement. This is, when you feel so emotionally involved, you will say things that, objectively, are a terrible way to sort of create a discourse, or even to make a political movement. No, wait. I do think it's important, because you've got people, the other side. This movement is basically run by people who have an emotional involvement. Like, they feel that their very identity is at stake, and so they are absolutely prepared to use the most extraordinary, extreme arguments there are. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because I do think it's probably to do with this absolute personal anger that you've got, a personal connection or a personal involvement.
But Helen, the difference is that Artie did have a friend who committed suicide.
Yes, and so do many of them. I'm sure people do. But it doesn't excuse using it as a way to try and get other people to I don't think it's something that you can use in order to try and win people around to your point of view.
Artie responds saying he wasn't trying to weaponize suicide. His trans friend literally died, and he was trying to stop it happening to someone else. Helen responds by finding a way to switch the discussion to J.K. Rowling. Just incredible.
No, but that's just it. I don't want to win people around to my point of view, and that's why those tweets were dumb, because I don't normally try to win people over to my point of view. I keep it to myself, and I speak to it in, just in small, usually if I'm having a conversation with a man or with an academic or with a trans person who wants to talk about the minutiae of transsexualism, I'm not going to try to win people over to my view. That's why I fucked up so bad on those tweets, because it was snapping and trying to win people over to my view. And I did bring up right away why my view is so strong about myself, because I knew someone who died. And unfortunately, it did look like I was weaponizing suicide. I didn't even think of it that way. I was just emotionally upset that I was seeing someone being attacked who went through something just like my friend who literally died, And there is something to be said when there's a pile-on going on someone, and it's like, they might be in a precarious state, It's not necessarily weaponizing suicide. It's also saying, look out, someone might die. And
I think the other side a lot of people on the other side. I think this is why this other side of the movement has gained so much traction, because there is so much. There is a lot of mental illness there, and anger, and wanting to find a villain, and they appear to have found J.K. Rowling.
Also, in the first clip, note how Linehan tries to remonstrate with Helen by saying, "But, Helen, the difference is Artie did have a friend who died by suicide, and she has to point out to him, and so do many of them. Did he think trans people were actually lying about that?" I am also amazed that, after his friend died, Artie has suddenly realized that piling on trans people might be a terrible idea for their mental health, when he's sitting in a Zoom chat with a man who made doing that his race and detra on Twitter. The hypocrisy. Can they not see it? Hi Artie Morty. I am very sorry to hear about your friend, but you're also the guy who said that you wouldn't believe that trans kids were really trans until you saw evidence that 5 million had died by suicide. Graham laughed at that. On reflection, isn't one too many? How does it feel to be the position of many trans people who are either not believed, Graham, or who are greeted with accusations of weaponizing suicide, Helen, when they bring up the deaths of their friends, or the statistics on suicide? And here you are, this year, using the exact same argument that Helen is using against you. Having had that experience yourself, how do you think that person felt when you tweeted that at them? Did you really care at the time? Jethro. You do realize that trans people don't erase lesbians, right? You would rather have a suicidal lesbian in a body that feels like hell than a happy straight trans dude. Artie Morty. Never at any time in history or even to this day anywhere else have lesbians committed suicide en masse for lack of a sex change. The sheer number of lesbians suddenly deciding it's medical body modification or, supposedly, death as proof this is a social contagion gone mad. Do you really think you were wrong with what you drunkenly tweeted, or are you just trying to save face? I think you just got a live demonstration of your point that, at the very least, some gender-critical people don't give a damn about your dead trans friend. They have no empathy. They are literally offended by having to hear it. Essentially they're saying, what's that got to do with me? You are just looking for a villain like J.K. Rowling, as Helen said, and then she switched to talking about how lovely J.K. Rowling is. In vino veritas. And I think you know that.